One second. Okay, yeah, okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Hey everybody, this is Vincent Tung, the Wandering Warrior, and joining me today is Joseph Levitas, and we are the guys behind Kung Fu Combat. So today we've got an interesting topic to discuss, one that causes a lot of pain, laughter, and controversy. Joseph, why don't you get us started on today's topic?
Okay, so yeah, the question would be, what's one thing that could improve your Gung Fu? What do you think that is? Like, what is there something missing in our Gung Fu in general?
That's a good question. I mean, Kung Fu's track record in the last couple of decades has been absolute garbage, right? So, I mean, your Kung Fu, are you like the old guys in the pajamas fighting Xu Xiaodong in China kind of Kung Fu, or are you like those hard motherfuckers coming out of the Qing Dynasty kind of Kung Fu? There's very different kinds of Kung Fu we're talking about. Um, Honestly, if we're looking at most things that we see, I don't, I wouldn't say it's something technically missing because I think that's just a weird way to frame the question. You don't ask a Greco-Roman wrestler, "Hey, how are your calf kicks? How's your teep?" Right? And you don't ask a Nakamui, how good is your Kimura? How good is your omoplata, gogo plata, whatever plata? We don't ask these questions. We don't ask Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, "Oh, how good is your ability to set up a jab cross?" Unless we're doing MMA, right? And as we've seen in MMA, it's actually more about where your strengths are, how you mitigate your weaknesses, and fighting in dominating the fight such that you fight in your ideal range and spacing. And I think if there's anything we can take away from mixed martial arts, it's that uh, Chinese pugilism, Chinese pugilists, practitioners of Kung Fu need to learn how to manage their distance such that they get to the range where their skills are ideal, optimal, excellent, right? I think that's probably close to the key.
So, would you say there's something technically that they're ingrained in it in traditional martial arts that basically prevents us from using our range? And what is our range?
Mm,
Also, like where are we trying to get
that's a good
with
question.
our?
Obviously, there's traditional Chinese martial arts and there's traditional Chinese martial arts. Some of them were definitely more self-defense focused. Some of them were re-engineered to be Republic of China military training or something, right? For soldiers. Then that's much more of a commando mentality, and everything in between. So yeah, we're dealing with a broad spectrum of things, but generally, at least in my experience, I think in your experience as well, it's not that technically we don't have ways of bridging the gap or dealing with long range attacks or whatever, or someone shooting in on us. Hell, they have manuals showing single leg takedowns from the Ming Dynasty. I mean, it's been around, right? And we're all humans here. I think the main thing is the emphasis within the training, because if you spend all day doing like push hands, sticky hands, you're not training how to get to push hands or get to sticky hands, or even how long does that even last in a fight? You know what I mean?
Right.
Probably a very short while before you dominated the guy or had to readjust. So I think it's more of an emphasis in training and understanding the principles of fighting rather than the techniques themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we have this situation basically that we see all the time on video, right? The Kung Fu guy comes out and he's like, let's say, like a Wing Chun guy or whatever, right? So he's supposed to be dominant in the close range.
Yeah.
but he never gets to that range. He gets his head handed to him. Basically, he's getting out punched, outstruck.
Just a
Never
speed bag. You
getting
just
right. He's not never get like I'm not even talking about the guys that just get knocked out right away. I'm talking about guys that they were okay. He can take a punch, but he never is able to capitalize on whatever it is
Mm,
he was
yeah,
working on all this
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Like why is that? Do you think?
Ah, yeah, I guess that begs the question, why do we see Kung Fu guys constantly get defeated by jabs or crosses, just straight down the pipe strikes, right? Why are they
Right?
always getting messed up by jabs? Um, well, here's one take on it. Like I said before, if they're not even training in that range, then they're not preparing themselves for the tools of that range, right? If they're only spending their time in mid to close range, and they're never stepping back and fighting to get to that position, right? They're just not used to it, even if technically they know what they're supposed to do. Because let's just say you go back to the Wing Chun example, and I'm not a Wing Chun practitioner, but I understand that sticky hands lives where our forearms can touch, right? But this type of movement exists where our forearms are not yet touching, but we need to be able to misalign and fire back on somebody. Um, Pretty sure that's in like the first few seconds of their first form or something like that. I'm no expert. I just know that they technically have an answer. Um, and so it's a damn shame that more of them aren't utilizing the skills that are within their systems to match it to the right ranges, or bothering to sit back and understand what is distance, what is range, what is space, um, before diving into the nitty gritty of all these different techniques, right? Well, where does this all fit in?
Yeah. Do you think that's because they are just basically stuck practicing among themselves, basically like never having to deal with a guy that can kick or that can punch a longer punch, that doesn't necessarily wants to fight in their range.
Yeah, that definitely may be part of it. I mean, there's lack of exposure, and there's sort of like, I call it like mental inbreeding. They're mentally like being inbred, right? They're only getting good at fighting someone that fights like them, and they're getting better at that particular game. Um, in a way, this is no different than any highly restricted fight sport, but at least fight sports tend to put a lot more athleticism in back conditioning, and just level of competitiveness into it. So at the very least, for whatever range and set of tools, you're getting very good skills, right? For example, ways to get strong, bulk, and knock somebody off of their positioning, in a wrestling sense. Well, sumo is perfect for that. It's not the best wrestling for all situations of wrestling, but for that purpose, amazing, right? What a lot of the Chinese martial arts seem to lack at the moment is both that kind of different levels of pressure testing, but also getting the different perspectives on fighting overall. Right. So they're very much stuck in their own room. They're kind of that's what I mean by the inbreeding effect. Um,
Right.
a lot of weird stuff creeps in because they're no longer pulling it back out into reality before going back into specific skill sets.
Also, I remember before watching UFC back in 1993, a lot of like boxers and for some time afterwards as well. Their approach would be like this. So how are you gonna fight like a karate guy or a wrestler? Well, I'm not. I don't need to know anything about that. I'm just gonna walk up because they don't know shit about boxing, so I'm just gonna walk up to him and punch him in the face.
Yeah.
It's gonna be easy. It's gonna be
Yep.
easy, and in some
Yep.
cases it's true actually.
Mhm.
But what we've seen in from mixed martial arts is that no, not necessarily. Like a little jiu-jitsu guy that doesn't know any boxing can take a professional boxer down
Yes.
and submit him. He can submit a professional wrestler because he
Mhm.
just doesn't know those submissions.
Yep.
He doesn't understand what's going on, and things like that. And then later, when karate guys showed up like Machida, you
Yep.
know all of a sudden knocking guys out with reverse punches and flying kicks,
Yeah.
that were supposedly like weren't supposed to even work at all, right?
Yeah, that's a really really funny thing. Even something as isolated as like the oblique kick, or fu ren jiao, right? The axe blade kick, the oblique kick. Everyone's like, oh, the weird short kung fu kick, and then people start getting popped in the knee with it every time they
Right,
try to advance, and they realize, oh, this is different.
right.
Just because it doesn't exist in Muay Thai doesn't mean that this is not effective.
Yeah, by the way, Muay Thai fighters right away picked it up.
Oh yeah, they picked it up right away. Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm taking that. Um, but it's an effective technique. It's like what do you call it? What's the jab people use as a stiff jab to kind of keep people back? Uh,
That power jab.
power jab. Yeah, it's kind of like that. But with the leg to the legs. It's kind of like,
Right,
oh, you want to step in on me? Bam. And then you're just like,
right.
shit. It's a little shock and it deters you. Even something as simple as that. Someone picked up a tool from the traditional arsenal, used it at the right range at the right time, and suddenly people realize, oh, this stuff works,
Right.
right? Or even stuff like Tony Ferguson would do things like pop people's arms down and use an elbow. Oh, that's one of the simplest things. Most Chinese martial arts have that. A lot of karate has that. A lot of silat has that. It's a very simple way to trap. It's one of
Right.
but using the right range at the right time works.
Yeah. Or like the hammer fist, for example,
Or
right?
hammer fist.
All of a sudden, everybody's like, "Oh, this is great for like when you're sitting on top of somebody,
Oh yeah.
first of all, and then when McGregor had his little foray into boxing,
Mhm.
that's like the only punch he actually landed, which was like that impenetrable Philly shell that Mayweather had. All of a sudden, it turns out it's very susceptible to that
Mhm. Mhm.
because it's just coming from a
Yeah.
different angle, from down up.
Yeah.
I mean, from up down. Sorry,
Yeah.
right. So it's very effective in that situation.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things where it's like, I think it's not that these techniques are bad. I think it's the strategic or tactical paradigm that they try to understand things from either isn't
Mhm.
there or it's a little off, you know, because clearly these things can work. It's just a matter of understanding where they work, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that would you say that that's basically a setup for it? Basically, understanding strategy and distance.
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes down to fight skills and understanding just the fight overall, not necessarily being able to do your individual techniques. But this leads me to think, like, is this only a traditional martial arts problem, or do a lot of sport combatants, fight athletes have this issue?
Oh
What's
yeah.
your take on that?
Oh, we've seen that a lot of times, like especially in early mixed martial arts days, where they would have like these, not only like UFC, but the matches, for example. I remember there was a match between some kind of Japanese karate guy versus a boxer, right?
Hmm.
So this the rules weren't very clear,
Mhm.
and the karate guy just as soon as the boxing guy was trying to approach him, he would kick his legs, which pissed off the boxer. He was like,
Naturally.
"What is he doing? What's
Yeah.
going on?" He was like very upset about that,
Mhm.
and I guess the rules were just not clear, and the guy eventually the boxer just walked off the ring. He had no idea what to do with this.
Yeah.
Although now we know, everybody knows what to do with this. Just lift your leg up, walk him down, lifting, just defend that,
Yeah.
defend that. He didn't know how to defend that. He was like getting kicked in the leg, and it was so frustrating to a professional fighter
Mhm.
that he quit, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
uh, things like that. Like, or, how many times have we seen the wrestlers that have no striking, uh, just getting beat up because they cannot close the distance properly,
Mm.
because they cannot pass that, mid range.
Right. And I guess another thing would be like, I mean, even with boxers, we see boxers who are good at mid and close range boxing not be able to employ their game and get kept out by boxers who are very good at playing the long game. And
Yeah,
so it kind of brings it full circle. Like we think of traditional Chinese martial arts, or even the Okinawan stuff, or a lot of Silat. A lot of stuff operates, not all of it, but a lot of their skills operate more in the middle to very close range of things. And the more wrestling and clinch work involved in your system, obviously, the more the close range of things, right? So, given that's the case, I would assume a lot of traditional martial artists, like any shorter ranged boxer or any other style, needs to focus on being able to bridge that gap, right? So you've had a boxing, Muay Thai, and traditional Chinese martial arts background. I have a traditional Chinese martial arts background, little boxing, little Muay Thai, and more now into Shai Jiao and Mongol wrestling. Kind of different ends of the spectrum as far as range. What do you think can be done about this issue?
there's definitely drills to bridge that, uh, proper footwork for each individual case. If
Mhm.
you want to stay outside, there's footwork for that. That's totally different from a footwork if we want to, steal the space from somebody. Just basically, if you want to crowd somebody, you're gonna move entirely different than, let's say, if you want to create space between you and somebody, and have them come to you and fall into your traps.
Mhm.
So there's for each range, there's a number of exercises that can be done. Some of them come from traditional styles too. Like, we had like a whole section actually of stuff like that done in Meihua Tanlan. And there's a saying, I don't remember the Chinese version of it, but it basically is, if you taught your students footwork movement, you have a student, a fighter, and if you didn't, you don't.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's an interesting point you make. I feel mm, one thing that has definitely happened in some of the traditional martial arts is because there's an emphasis oftentimes on the form factor, right? And especially for demonstration or for the forms, literally the sequences, the taolu, kata, judo, whatever. Because there's this sort of almost like aesthetic requirement that some people pursue in their training, they're more worried about the how it looks rather than how exactly you're employing it, right? They're more worried about, oh, am I doing this hammer fist in a very uh, the perfect expression of it, which I understand, sometimes if if you're doing it with the perfect expression of that sort of force or energy, yes, it will look prettier because it's very efficient. But the point is, you're supposed to use your forearms and chop through the opponent's guard. You're supposed to chop through the target. Uh, I think sometimes we see a lot of traditional martial arts kind of lose sight of what that's what the point of all this is, and what it's supposed to be, which is effective.
Yeah.
Like somebody's kind of slip to the side and punch is maybe not going to look just like Ip Man's. It's going to look like whatever the best way for that person's build to do it is going to look like.
Yeah.
And if you're a really little person, you might have to move more.
Right.
Tall, maybe you just kind of just a little bit out of the way and just boom, hit the guy, right? It's look different.
It's like in other combat sports or martial arts. Like if you look at boxing, it's so many different things. It's like, is it Mayweather style, like Philly shell type boxing, or is it Mike Tyson type boxing, or is it Pernell Whitaker, or is it like Muhammad Ali? Those are completely different things.
Yes,
but it's all boxing.
It is,
and it's adapted to whatever the strongest ability of the fighter is. Whether it's movement or punching power or just reflexes or whatever it is.
Yes, and you know what? If there was only one right way, we wouldn't have so many Kung Fu styles.
Yeah,
that's just what it is.
Yeah, or like in Judo, like they have, like Mongolians have their thing, like Georgians have another style of things, and so on and so forth. There's so many ways. It's all Judo, but it's different.
Yeah, because there's Judo, and I guess this leads to another topic. There's Judo as a system. There's Judo as a curriculum, but then there's Judo as a competitive format, which is a particular fighting format.
Right.
So you can bring your Mongolian wrestling background into your Judo training and then do Judo. You can bring your Georgian wrestling into your Judo. You can bring your Greco-Roman or freestyle into your Judo, right? So that's one of the things I think our vision gets clouded sometimes, because in the modern day, high level fighting, just fighting as a whole, is not something we see as much, but high level fight sports with particular rules is something we see a lot of. So we get conditioned in a way to think that shooting for a double or single leg from a certain distance is normal, or that punching the way you would punch if you have gloves on is normal, right? Or standing light and jumping around and kicking a certain way is normal. And don't get me wrong, you can definitely use shooting for singles or doubles in a fight. You can definitely box in a fight. You can definitely kick the way Savat or Taekwondoka would kick. But all of those are kind of, say whether you're doing freestyle or Taekwondo or whatever, all of these are kind of removed from reality into a specific set of rules that everyone agrees to in duels using those rules, right? So I think, people have to kind of broaden their perspective and say, okay, but what is fighting, right? It goes back to what you were saying, what I was saying. I'm imposing my game. I'm imposing the range I want to be at, where I think my skills are better than your skills. And therefore I dominate and I destroy you, or vice versa. That happens to me. And if we can bring it back to that, then we bring it back to, I think, the root issue in a lot of these Kung Fu styles, where people are actually earnestly training for fighting, but they're missing something. But also, like you said, it's actually quite an easy fix. It's quite an easy fix if you have the right experience in this kind of stuff. it's quite easy to prescribe a series of games and drills for people to be understanding of the range. And therefore, they can make the executive decision. Do I want to hang out here? Do I want to hang over there? What am I trying to employ on this person? And then they can start picking from their arsenal, their technical arsenal from their traditional martial arts system, right? Okay, this guy wants to stay at long range. Maybe I want to trap him up. This guy wants to trap up and wrestle and stuff. Maybe I want to keep him at long range, right? And so I think that's where the Kung Fu conversation has to go to, not so much lineage and oh, we do this, we do that. No, the Kung Fu conversation should be for, say, Wing Chun people or Taiji people. How do we get to our range of excellence?
Right, right. That's what we would like to see. I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
our mutual understanding
yeah.
is to that we would like to see a generation, new generation of fighters actually applying those things.
Yes.
And for that, they need to understand just basics of fighting, which is
Mhm.
understanding the range. You know, how do you get in, or if it doesn't work, how do you get out?
Right. And you know what? That's a big part of what we're trying to do with
Right,
Kung Fu Combat, as far as privates, as far as lessons, as far as consultation, to help people make their Kung Fu combative. You can put in
right,
a lot of work, doesn't mean you can
yeah,
fight. We're trying to
right,
make sure it does. On that note, we have a masterclass coming up, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And the topic of that, as we discussed earlier, it's going to be about distance management. Can you give our audience just a quick understanding of what our approach is towards that? Because I mean, we talked a lot of good stuff and that you should do this, or else life is going to be hell for you. Your head's going to get dribbled around. But well, hopefully not. But I mean, it's still kind of funny. What's our approach? Can you give people just a very broad idea of our methodology?
Okay, so basically the way we're gonna approach this is three parts. First is judging the distance, understanding what is the distance, when am I in danger,
Mhm.
when is he in danger, when can I apply my skills, like what are my skills? Okay, I have like a little bit of wrestling or kicking or punching or what's in my style,
Mhm.
basically,
Mhm.
and when at what range am I going to be effective
Mhm.
and at what range which ranges I should avoid altogether, maybe
Given your
skip,
skill set.
right, given the skills
Yeah.
set, right? So for that, it's basically identifying what your weapons are and what is the range where you're effective. That's number one. Number two would be basically the tools to
Mhm.
get there for each range. Like what do I do if he's a long range fighter? What do I do if I'm the long range fighter and
Mhm.
he's
Mhm.
not? How can I use that? How can I prevent him from coming too close or otherwise? Right. So for each range, there would be like a series of drills, very easy ones, just like one or two drills and some pointers on how to get it to work, whether you're doing it with a partner or with whatever, right? With your wooden dummy, right? Preferably with a partner, right? And then like the third part would be offensive tools, like. So at which range, what do I use? What can I use at this range, that range? Uh,
Mm.
and
Mm.
and and things that we can actually derive from our very specific kung fu repertoire.
Yeah, we could start talking about all the funky different fist shapes and where that gets used and all that. Um,
Right.
yeah, like why did people who were engaged in dueling and famine and warfare and robbery and all that, why did they bother inventing these funky, exotic looking strikes? Right. And
Like,
where,
why
where
would
does
you
that
do
where does
that?
it fit in?
That's very strange.
Yeah, yeah, a whole bunch
You
of these
definitely,
these, these weird little things, right?
right. You're not
Um,
imitating the
oh
the
yeah,
the mantis,
yeah.
all that
Well,
weird Parkinson movement.
yeah,
It actually,
we'll get into like where this stuff actually
right.
used. And I think you guys will find that it's actually quite effective if you use it at the right time, at the right
Yeah.
distance, in the right range, where it belongs, right?
Right.
Uh, cool. I'm looking forward to it. Do you have any last words for our audience?
Okay, well, just join our join us for the seminar. We also have a chat that we starting on Telegram. That's gonna be like hopefully like a community
Mhm.
where you can we can discuss these things. Anybody can start a topic as long as everybody's respectful and everything.
Yeah.
And let's just keep it civilized.
Yes, yes. Mutual respect. Keep it about
Right.
the martial arts. And just know that if it's a little out of line or needs adjustment, you get a warning. But if it's egregious, bam, you're out. We're trying to keep this a a tight, respectful, respectable martial arts community. And when I mean martial arts, I don't mean just off in the distance doing forms and talking about energetics all day. I mean martial arts. This is Kung Fu combat. Yeah, so we'll be having a Telegram chat. We'll be having a masterclass later on next month. Um, Anything else they should be aware of?
Yeah, well, we're gonna do a little giveaway. We're
Right.
gonna have like a little freebie thing that's gonna touch on all those topics that we just
Mhm,
discussed.
mhm, mhm.
So a little bit of everything that you can basically get if you send us an email. Uh, Details will be coming later. And sign up to our new Telegram chat and join our community.
Right, right. So exactly. So stay tuned on Instagram at Kung Fu Combat. We're gonna have updates on how you can join that. You DM Kung Fu Combat with your name, optional if you want to keep your privacy, your email, and then we'll send you that freebie plus the link to the Telegram chat. I think, like you were saying, that freebie is going to basically be like a little template where they can start to play with these understandings of ranging and distancing themselves. But then, of course, there's going to be that masterclass that they can attend. Um, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I don't want to see any more of our guys getting their heads dribbled around like a basketball. So
Right.
sign up for our masterclass when the time comes. In any case, stay tuned for more announcements on our Instagram.
Yeah, stay safe, train, be nice to people.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to us. Have a good one. Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah,
But when
cool.
you told them to send to send you an email, I was like, oh shit.